Clone Wars Season 7, Episode 9, Old Friends Not Forgotten. So we have officially entered the final 4 episodes of the season. If you didn't know that, we only have 3 more to go, which really sucks. I didn't realize that until I watched the final TV spot, and I was like, oh, they had a new trailer out, and I'd seen like a little post about it, but I didn't end up watching it until maybe only like 2 days ago. And as soon as it starts, it's like 4 episodes left, and I was like, what? Like, we're at the end already? So that's sad. That was super sad. But epic start. Of course, it's the red font now. It starts off like the movies do, where it goes back. I was honestly curious. I was like, as it started to pan, I was like, this is the actual movie theme. Are we gonna get like legit text and stuff every episode or something? So it has the theme. They played the theme when Ahsoka was actually like going through and she was fighting and stuff. They had like the main theme playing. So it was awesome. It was awesome to hear like they were saving the movie music for these final moments. And technically, we are in the movies anyway, because in this episode, about halfway through or so, we find out that Anakin and Obi-Wan are going to be going to Coruscant, because that's where all the stuff is happening with episode 3. So it's like, man, that's crazy. So it was really cool, and I knew they were starting it because I was like, they showed the opening, and it was like Plo Koon is over here, and the other characters, I can never remember anybody's name. Is Plo Koon and Adi Gala are like the only two I can ever remember outside of the couple of other Jedi. But they were showing them on all the planets and stuff. I was like, oh, that's the woman that got killed, and she was like circled around on all the crazy planets and stuff. Plo Koon was like on the crazy, in the ships and stuff. And I was like, oh man, they're in, they're there, they're getting close. And then it was like, nope, you're already in it. Like, this is episode 3. So that's interesting. It's definitely interesting. It's technically in the middle of like episode 3 based on the way they kind of described it, because I thought it was going to be like, this would end and it would go into the beginning of episode 3. And I knew that they said it would go into it a little bit. I didn't think like basically the last 2 hours of the show would be like in the middle of the movie. So I was surprised by that, because I was like, oh, I just assumed, they're already on that planet, but they've been there for a minute or whatever. You still have to get the beginning of the movie and stuff, but they've already done that. Apparently they've already killed Count Dooku and all this other stuff. That's already been said and done. So it was interesting to know that, because I was like, oh, okay, episode 3. Technically, all the movies take place over a crazy amount of time. You just never know. I think like not episode 2, but I think Empire is like almost a year or something crazy. Like Luke training with Yoda is like 9 months or something crazy. Like, they don't say that, but like that movie is almost like over the course of a year, pretty much. Like, it's insane, like the amount of time that skips in some of these movies. So that surprised me. I was like, okay, we're already like in the middle of the movie. They've already killed Dooku. They got to go rescue Palpatine and stuff. Who knows what they're gonna show and not show as far as like battles with Mace Windu and things like that. So I'm excited to see what they show from the other side of things, but totally makes sense now why Ahsoka was the only one that was involved with Darth Maul. And of course, he's like, I was expecting Obi-Wan Kenobi. But man, it was a good episode. It was a crazy action episode too. Like, Ahsoka goes in, especially the ending. Like the last maybe 5 minutes of them just swarming in, and like they're just taking down all these Mandalorians, and they're they've got like the red and black on, like Darth Maul, and like the one dude who I would assume was like one of the captains and stuff, he had the actual horns. I was like, that's actually really cool. So loved all of that. They're going through, they're using shields. Ahsoka was super cool, and she's running around with their lightsabers, which I love that joke where Anakin was like, they're as good as new, and then she turns them on and they're blue, and he's like, yeah, maybe better. So I thought that was funny, because his thing is blue. But I love that. I didn't notice until they actually showed her lightsabers that one was actually shorter than the other. I never knew that. I always thought they were the same size, but that's actually, like, that's realistic. Like, that's how people use blades. If you dual wield, you are supposed to have one longer and one short, because that way, if you're striking, you have an easier way to block. If somebody comes in from a different angle, you don't have to worry about the swords hitting, so you can just like do that. Like, you can have a sword straight up and then just swing right past it, because your other sword is so much shorter. So I never knew, I never actually noticed that before. I always thought that they were perfectly even. And it's kind of hard to tell when she's like flipping and spinning, so I never noticed it before. I'm sure it's actually obvious, and I just never noticed. Even in Rebels, I thought they were the same. They might actually be the same in Rebels. But in this one, I thought that was cool. I was like, they opened them up, and I was like, oh, one is actually shorter than the other. Never noticed it. Couldn't tell with all their flipping and spinning. But it was awesome. And so, her diving down and taking everybody out. She's going from ship to ship and kicking people, and like, it was amazing. It was an amazing sequence of Ahsoka just like flipping and spinning and destroying everybody. And then she does her landing, and I thought that was a cool landing too. Like, the ship, crashes down behind her, and she like catches herself with the lightsabers and like slides in and hops up, and then there's a big epic explosion. I was like, yeah, that was super cool. That was really cool. So I love this first part. I loved everything about it, like the way it started, the way it ended. Like it just ended with like the sound of the lightsaber, and then it was like there was no music or anything like that, and it was just good. It was just like, man, it's so intense, and like I love the way the visuals look. For some reason, this was once again one of those episodes where it just like the whole series just looks better this whole season. That's the point, but. I don't know. Some episodes just really stick out. Like some just stick out more than others. Like the scene when Obi-Wan was talking, I think it was when they like first started talking to him, when they like first see Ahsoka there, and even when they have their conversation when he comes in, it's like, she's not a part of the official Republic Army and stuff like that anymore. Some of those scenes where they would show him, it was just like a shallow depth of field, and it was just him, and there's stuff in the background, but it's all blurred out, and it just looked really good. I was like, man, something about it just looks better than other shots, but whole episode was awesome. I love the scene with Anakin where he goes in, he does his cocky thing. It's like, oh, we surrender and stuff. And then you have the clone troopers with all the jetpacks and stuff, and they fly up and they're just dropping bombs and shooting droids and stuff. I was like, this is really cool. So the whole episode was just really entertaining. So it was funny. They have the reunion with Ahsoka. Then they have to leave, and they have a really good moment where Ahsoka does say like, so you're just gonna run, you're just gonna run to Palpatine. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. So I like that little moment that they had. And we'll just see what happens, because I'm really curious where this is going to go as far as its connection to episode 3. Like, what is she going to learn from Coruscant? That's, like, the main thing I'm curious about, because we know she's going to live. We know Darth Maul is going to live. We don't really know. I believe, I still didn't remember her name, but Satine's sister, I believe she's still alive in Rebels. I could be mistaken. I don't really remember that part. So we'll have to kind of see how this ends up playing out, but we know it's going to be a stalemate when it comes to, Darth Maul and Ahsoka. So I'm really curious how that's going to end up playing out. And then, like I said, what is she going to learn as far as like the events of episode 3? How far into, Order 66 are we going to go? That's probably what caused it to be a stalemate, because they're still technically going to try to kill Darth Maul, I would assume, especially considering he's not on the best terms with Emperor Palpatine. So odds are Maul would be a target as well for the clones. Like, even though he's technically not a Jedi, I wouldn't be surprised if they're like, oh, Palpatine just doesn't like you, and they try to kill him anyway. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's what causes it to be a stalemate, where they both have to like just survive, and maybe they even have to team up in order to survive, and then that's how they end up separating. So it would be interesting. That would also kind of lend to the reaction that she might have in the Rebel season 2 finale, because of course nobody trusts Darth Maul. Like, people know Maul, and it was just like, can't trust the dude. But they didn't instantly attack him in the Rebels 2 finale, so I don't know. We'll see what happens. Also, speaking of Rebels, Kanan was in there. It was only in the opening. I thought they were going to do a full scene where you get to see like his master speak and stuff like that, but it was just like the little opening recap. So I was like, oh, that kind of sucks. But Kanan was there. Caleb Doom, if I'm remembering correctly, that's his real name. So he was there. He was the young kid. That was him and his master. So that was Kanan from Rebels. So that was pretty awesome. And I knew that scene was coming up because people had talked about it, I think when the first trailer came out. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I thought it would at least be a scene where I didn't think he would talk, but I figured, maybe at least his master would talk and be like, oh, look, little, there's little Kanan. Sadly, it was literally just in the opening. Like, it was like, oh, there's some people. Here's Yoda, blah, blah, blah. And then it just skipped right to the next thing. And I was like, oh, well, that kind of sucks. I wasn't expecting much anyway, but I was like, oh, I kind of just wanted to hear what she sounded like. I guess in my head, because it's like, I like Kanan so much. I was just curious, like, what voice would they choose for his master? Like, it's as simple as that. That's all I was kind of hoping for. But great episode. Obviously, it's really serious. They've changed it to the red opening. It's like the movie opening where it pans back and everything. So I don't know. I'm very excited. I can't wait to see what we get. Sadly, only 3 more episodes to go. That really caught me off guard when I watched that trailer. And I was just like, 3 episodes, or at the time it was 4, but now we're down to 3. Which fortunately, the episodes are like full on 30-minute episodes, so that was great because the episode actually did feel long. And maybe it was because they had a lot of moments where, the characters were interacting because it was the reunion episode. There were a lot of moments where I would, like, check the time because I was like, man, this feels like a long episode. But it was just because they had moments where you're just in it because it's emotion-filled moments. Like, Ahsoka reuniting with them and Ahsoka actually talking to them like, you're just going to run to Palpatine. Like, that scene felt long, but in a good way. So I was like, oh, man, are we at the end of the episode? Like, I wasn't sure how things were playing out, but it felt like it was a decent length episode. It felt like a lot of good stuff happened. So very happy with the content, very happy with the length. I would have loved it if all 4 episodes, I was kind of hoping, I didn't want to check at first. I was like, I doubt they'd do that. And sadly they didn't, but I would have loved it if every episode was like an hour long and it was just like the final 4 were technically like 8 episodes. I would have lost my mind. That would have been absolutely amazing. But I think it's going to be good no matter what. This first episode was great. We'll see what happens. Ahsoka is captured again, so we shall see what happens with the rest of her team. You know, they all got split up, so all the clones got killed off. All the Mandalorians were separated from her, so she doesn't really have any backup right now. So she might be captured. I know there's another moment where her and Maul are supposed to interact, so we'll see what happens. Although that could have been altered for the trailer, because the dialogue that he says at the end of this episode is the dialogue that he said in the trailer. And so I thought that was like the first time they'd run into each other, and he like turns around. They're like in they're like in a fight arena. They're in like a big open space. That's where they're gonna fight. But they put that line of dialogue in there. So I was surprised to hear it at the end of this episode, because I thought it was gonna come later. So I was like, oh, okay. I didn't think that they'd run into each other until that first fight. Like I thought that was gonna be the moment. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with Ahsoka. But all in all, I love the episode. I'm still super sad because it really caught me off guard. I didn't know how many episodes. I knew it was going to be small, but I was like, dang, I didn't realize it was going to be this small. And it was just, boom, 4 episodes. And sadly, now we're down to 3. But I think they're going to be 4 amazing episodes, going off of this first one. So the next 3, I'm sure, are going to be fantastic. But definitely love this one. Naturally, I want to know what you guys thought about it, though. So please put your comments down in the comment section below. Let me know your favorite parts about it, your least favorite parts about it. As far as where we're headed, we got the next 3 episodes. I don't know. I may have been wrong about this. I thought for sure we'd see the Bad Batch, but considering we're in the last 3, I don't know if that's going to happen. And that kind of sucks, because I'm like, oh, that just fits so perfectly. They could still show up last minute as assistants, for Ahsoka, and then we see kind of how things play out there. But I could be wrong. I thought for sure, I was like, they have to bring them back, unless they already have plans to do maybe a comic series. I don't know if they would pull off another show with them, but maybe a comic series or something like that. So I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, it's Star Wars. It's going to have every form of medium ever. So I wouldn't be shocked if we ended up getting a Bad Batch like comic book series to show what happens when they go into Order 66. I forgot I have my heat on still, but it's perfect. I'm at the end anyway. We'd love to know what you guys want to see from these last 3 episodes, what you hope to see, what you don't even want to see, all your hopes, all your expectations, and everything like that. And, of course, what you guys thought about this episode in general. So please put your comments down in the comment section below. And, of course, thanks for watching.